What is up, everyone? We are 2 days away from the college football season with week zero. It is here. Get a nice little teaser, nice little preview of some games, and we are going to dive in with our college football preview, some win total bets. We're joined with some SEC guys, so we're going to talk a little SEC football, our predictions to win, and maybe at the end we'll get into a little bit of Heisman talk. I'm Zach Reger with SBD, joined by Brady Trettenero, our college football editor over at SBD. And we are very excited to welcome back on Connor O'Gara, Adam Spencer from Saturday Down South. How's everyone doing? College football is here.
Finally
It's a good
over.
time, man.
Wait, yeah.
All right, let's get right into some of these picks. College football, some win total bets. Some of these odds, it's a little tough to navigate. I don't know if anyone wants to go first. Brady, I see the Clemson hat. Is this a win total? Is this another bet later coming in? Where are
I
you
think it's
thinking?
probably more Heisman, but I could kick off the win total with one from the same conference that I like if you're down for it.
Let's hear it.
Yeah, so I'm on this line has moved a little bit. I got it early. I'm on Georgia Tech over 7.5 wins. I just like the progress they made last year, really hanging with Georgia, showing they can take down Miami. And when you have a returning quarterback, right, like Haynes King, all that experience in a weaker conference and in the run game with Jamal Haynes, he's one of the only guys who rushed for 900 plus last year in that conference. And I just like the progress they've been making under Brent K. So I think they're a sneaky bet right now. Like, I really think they're flying under the radar with the experience they have, the portal additions they went, got a really good rusher on the edge there. So, yeah, that's my favorite win total bet right there. Georgia Tech over 7.5 wins.
I love the backfield of Haynes King and Jamal Haynes. So I do
Yeah.
not hate that pick in a very open ACC after Clemson.
Is there a more disrespectful win total right now than both Georgia Tech and Mizzou? And Adam,
There we go.
I'll just set you up. I'll, I'll, I'll
Thank
set you
you.
up for this. I'm kind of blown away because both of their schedules just have 8-4 floor written all over it, in my opinion. And obviously they both have mobile quarterbacks. Like, if one of those guys goes down, that changes the projection of their team, of course. But I just looked at both of those two going into the season. I'm like, dang, are we just totally losing sight of the culture that both of these programs have been able to establish? Because it certainly feels like Vegas is basically saying, I dare you, and we don't think that enough people are going to be on these two teams.
Well, that's the thing. Like you said, 8-4 floor. Well, over 7.5 wins on BetMGM from Mizzou is still plus money. It's still plus 115. So I mean, yeah, like I'm trying not to be a homer here, but like, come on. Like we've all seen the schedule. They have Kansas, but that game's at home. Like this should be a like an 8-4 at worst season for the Tigers if Bo Prabula is even halfway decent. If he can even hold on to a football, then they should go 8-4 this year. So I mean, yeah, like that. I agree with you. That one's disrespectful. But I mean, Georgia Tech, Mizzou is just two teams that just constantly get overlooked, and I'm not really sure why.
It is bizarre. Yeah, I mean, I've been trying to figure out, because when we do like crystal ball and stuff like that, we're trying to figure out what line actually is worth looking into with plus money and all these different things. And like my pick for an over under was LSU, and I have LSU winning a national championship. So spoiler alert there. And I was all over. I mean, thinking 18-1 were great odds there. But I'm looking at that line going, okay, well, I can at least see a path more to 8-4 and them hitting the under on 8.5 wins, as opposed to, just because of the Brian Kelly factor, you always have to account for the possibility that a team like that falls apart. But I don't know. I just think that LSU having 7 preseason AP top 25 teams on their schedule is different than what Mizzou has, or even what Georgia Tech has, which is a very favorable path when they don't even have to be a world beater. So yeah, I think very, very different ways to look at it. I know that it's not plus money for the over on that LSU 8.5 wins, but still feel very, very good about that as someone that picked them to win it all.
Adam, is Mizzou your pick or one of
That
them?
was, that was my top pick. I mean, the fact that it's still plus money is just wild. Like if you can find an alt over and go 8.5 wins over, like I still think that there's value there. And I haven't seen the odds there, but I would imagine it's even more favorable. And I think 9-3. Like, does 9-3 get Mizzou into the playoff? Not with that schedule, probably, but 9-3 is still in play like it was last year.
Yeah, I mean, any SEC team 9-3, favorable schedule, but it's still the SEC. They'll see the SEC opponents, could get them in. I don't hate that. I'm surprised it was plus money. I'll go and give my first win total pick, which it's a little more juice than I would have liked, especially now. I got it a little bit earlier, but it's the team whose hat I'm wearing. It's a team a lot of people kind of, I want to say, forget about, but a lot of teams they don't really know much about them. I feel like they kind of flirt up top. They went 5-7 last year, but it's still Utah. It's still Whittingham. Ground and pound, tough physical team, great defense under Morgan Scaley. So I'm not really worried about that. The defense last year, still a top unit. They'll always be very good. And the Cam Rising experience is finally over. So I think Kyle Whittingham just wins, is always up there near the top. It's over 7.5 wins. I think they can get to 8-4 without a problem. Would not mind a 9-3 with their Big 12 schedule. I might be slightly biased, not just because I'm wearing the hat, but the quarterback they brought in, Devon Dampier, when College Football 25 first came out, my first dynasty mode was with New Mexico to rebuild them. I had no idea about Devon Dampier until I started playing with them. Fell in love with them. Mountain West champs first year. Rose Bowl champs, I believe. We led them to New Mexico, something like that. We did pretty good. So love that he is there. They're bringing their offensive coordinator in with him, so he doesn't have to learn a completely new scheme going to a new program, new school. Like that, I just feel like Utah, one bad season with Whittingham, with all the injuries they dealt with, they couldn't move the ball at all. That will be different this year. I like Utah over 7.5, and if you don't like the odds there, don't mind 8.5. But I also have them plus 490 to make the college football playoff, and also plus 600 to win the Big 12.
They also have they play 4 ranked teams, and they all take place in Utah. They play at BYU, but then they
Tough
get
place to play.
yeah, but they get Texas Tech, Arizona State, and Kansas State at home. So I mean, Rice Eccles. I used to live in Park City, Utah, and so I've been down to Rice Eccles a couple times, and it's an underrated stadium. Great views. Lavelle Edwards Stadium in Provo is also one of the most beautiful in college football. But yeah, I mean, getting those 3 teams at home and not having to leave the state of Utah for a ranked matchup is pretty convenient for Kyle Whittingham and company.
You could pretty much talk yourself into any Big 12 team outside of UCF getting 8-4. I mean, you really could. And maybe in my neck of the woods here in Orlando, there are some people that could actually talk themselves into an 8-4 season for UCF because, hey, I don't know if you've heard, but Scott Frost is back and he's going to be just as good as he was 8 years ago when college football was totally the same as it is right now. But yeah, that is the fun thing about the Big 12. You should almost and gamble responsibly. Everybody should have some sort of vested interest in the Big 12. They should, whether that's a Big 12 future, which they're not doing a preseason media poll, so I don't know if they're going to get them to tip their hand at all there. But with the way that the odds are set up, it is truly America's conference, and it's the conference of chaos. So getting on board with at least one team makes a lot of sense.
I disagree with that, and I will talk anybody out of Kansas. I will do my best. Jalen
Daniels, he's going to stay healthy. Adam, you didn't hear?
No. He'll get benched in week 2.
He's got a chain with all of his highlights on it, though, which is pretty sick. That's worth like 2 wins. He's got aura, as the kids say.
Well, I mean, how do we know how long that highlight reel is? Because, it could be like 30 seconds of highlights.
He had some good moments down the stretch. They were the best 5-win team in America last year.
I heard.
BYU, they're beating teams left and right. He's got plenty of highlights on. Look, if I can get you a Christian Hackenberg 6-minute clip on the internet of him just dicing dudes up, I can get you Jalen Daniels. And by the way, I'm allowed to say that as someone who told Christian Hackenberg to his face, like, you're the ultimate highlight guy that anybody can like spin and make look really, really good on that stage. But ultimately, we kind of know what's up. Jalen Daniels, probably the same thing.
All right, Connor, what are you looking at?
LSU.
Just LSU.
And I was going to bring up Mizzou if Adam didn't, because it just needs to be said, and I don't feel like it's being talked about. you're better off with something like that, probably getting a team that's starting outside of the AP top 25, which, those are teams that obviously are. All three of those teams are starting outside of the AP top 25. I think Louisville's really interesting too. Like, people don't realize Jeff Brom has 4 consecutive 8-win seasons, and he's done that, 2 of which at Purdue, 2 of which at Louisville, and Louisville was kind of left for dead post Scott Satterfield. So I look at that program with Miller Moss, and they had ACC Rookie of the Year last year. As I look at them as a legitimate playoff team, and I think last I had checked, that over under was lower than I thought it was going to be. Let me give you the current odds on that, because it definitely was one of those things that like jumped out at me. So it's over 8.5 wins at -160. Okay, I feel like that's changed a little bit. But to be over 8.5 wins for a very favorable schedule for a Louisville team that, like, people kind of forget went into Clemson and pushed them around last year and just totally dominated that game. I just feel like people are sleeping on them a little bit too much.
Yeah, I do like Miller Moss. I'm excited to see kind of how he does in that offense. And once again, the ACC, it's pretty open after Clemson. I've got one more win total since I gave out such a -175 juiced one. SEC team, I kind of like Oklahoma over 7.5 at +106. And I'm normally not big on Oklahoma, but this line has moved a lot. It was 6.5. Now 7.5. You can still find 6.5 some places, but it's like -220. Nowhere worth that. I mean, the John Mateer story broke, what was that, a week ago? I wouldn't mind betting on a guy that knows the spreads, knows the odds. We'll see. But similar to Utah in the fact of brought in John Mateer, brought in his coach to, make that transition smoother. Jay Knott, I love him at running back, loved him at Cal the last few years, and their defense is still strong. Kept them in some games last year. It's just their offense was so hit or miss. I think we're really going to be able to tell if this bet hits or not. Week 2 against Michigan, they're favored right now on the look-ahead line, -2.5. They have that game at home. So I think if they can get that win, get the momentum building, little risky. Don't know how I feel about betting on Venables right now, but at plus money, I like over 7.5 for Oklahoma.
Really difficult schedule. Very, very difficult to navigate that with what they're going to see in the latter half of the season, because you might be able to talk yourself into them hitting that over in the first month and a half. Like, I think Red River Rivalry this year is going to be a top 10 game for the first time in, I think, 16 years it would be, or 17 years. And if Mateer looks the part early, there are going to be a lot of people going like, see, told you this is going to work out. But the gauntlet that awaits in the latter half is going to be fascinating to watch. And if Brent Venables can what's the right way to say this? Cannot micromanage the offense like he tried to do a little bit at times last year, albeit with a very injury depleted unit, then that's really going to determine how far they're going to be able to go. Because you're right, they got dudes galore on defense. Like, they return so many guys at every single level, and they should be good in that area. But it's just all going to come down to what this John Mateer experiment looks like.
Exactly. All right, so let's get into a little bit of SEC talk, our predictions on who will win the SEC. Brady, who wins this conference?
Yeah, well, I'll say right off the bat, I haven't placed any wager in this market. I don't have a confident feel for it because I feel like there's a few teams that have a realistic shot. But in terms of value, I'm kind of with Connor on the LSU value. I see the cases for Texas, Georgia, Alabama. I'm the kind of guy who likes to put my trust in a quarterback, and maybe we can get into this injury a little bit here and the potential consequences of it. I've been reading a lot about what Nussmeier is dealing with and how that could impact the season. But when you have just a starter with that many games, right, and in that gauntlet of a conference, that gauntlet of a slate, that experience is huge. Like, Arch Manning has so much hype, but he's never played in these intense rivalry games, and we can predict that he'll be able to handle it. But I just feel like I look at the pressure on Brian Kelly. I trust Brian Kelly to get this group in check here. You got Harold Perkins going to be healthy. Hopefully this year he's a massive game changer on defense. So yeah, my value play is LSU, but I'm I don't have a specific bet locked in at this moment.
My guess is Connor probably had LSU also. So I'll talk about Texas, Georgia. There's not a ton of value there. There's not a ton of value for Alabama either, but like there's more value, and I think that defense can be a top 5 unit in the country under Kane Womack. So I mean, I think that Alabama at plus 400 on BetMGM to win the SEC. I mean, I think that would be my pick outside of LSU just for a little bit of value. And they have the best wide receiver in the SEC. They have potentially the best defense. I mean, I expect them to be going back and forth with Texas for best defense in the SEC. We'll see if Ty Simpson can get the ball to Ryan Williams effectively, but I'm not too worried about Jam Miller being out for a few weeks. I think that if he can come back after the bye, that's fine. But otherwise, I mean, I think that they have some guys that can step up in the guy they brought in, like some guy named like Dre something Washington for their backfield, and he had a quote the other day like, "Yeah, I got a lot on my plate, but I can't complain because I came here to eat." And it's like that is an incredible line. So I mean, I'm looking for that guy to step in and make an impact just based on that quote alone. So Alabama's my pick for value.
I looked into something similar I was kind of looking at LSU, a little flyer, because they do have a lot of value. I also chose Alabama. Of course, you can make your cases, Georgia, Texas. But I really like Kalen DeBoer as a coach. I thought he was a great hire. Now he's in year 2. This guy has won everywhere. He's 6-0 against Kirby Smart, Dan Lanning, Sark. He finds ways to win, and we're going to see with Ty Simpson, like you said, see how he can do. I like Ryan Grubb as their OC. I like their schedule a little bit more. Like, it's an SEC schedule. It's definitely not easy. But I like their schedule more than LSU, Texas, Georgia. I chose Alabama too, with the value of getting them a little bit better odds than the other 2 favorites.
He's 15-3 against AP top 25 teams. 6-1 against the AP top 10. You just mentioned all those coaches. You could add Brian Kelly to that group too. Coaches that he's had their number. And I know that there's all these questions about, hey, where are those dud games going to come from? I think Ryan Grubb helps that a lot. And this is a really big prove-it year for Ryan Grubb, and kind of magnified if we want. We don't need to get that nerdy into it, but what he's being asked to do as an offensive coordinator after he was one and done with the Seahawks, and basically the complaint with him in Seattle was he didn't have a modern running game. And this year, it's very fitting in some ways that Justice Haynes leaves as the former 5-star guy type of guy that would never leave Bama in the previous era of college football, and he goes to Michigan, and then boom, to start off this year, Jam Miller, he's going to be out. And so there's a lot of pressure on Ryan Grubb to figure out who this Bama run game is early on, especially with a new starting quarterback in Ty Simpson. And Bama is a team that last year just could not get out of its own way in these spots. You knew they could get up for the big ones, but what are they doing in these dud moments that is causing them to not be able to battle back in the second half? Ryan Grubb could be that difference maker, and so the value I think is there for Bama at a plus 400 type level, knowing that probably going to lose to Georgia, but if you get a rematch against Georgia, and if you lose that one in the regular season, I feel pretty good about Kalen DeBoer in that spot.
Definitely. So Connor, you're going LSU?
Yeah, I mean, LSU's still my pick.
Yeah. I figured just had to ask one more time just to be sure.
There's the only thing I'll add to that is just there's this part of me that remembers Garrett Nussmeier slinging it in the second half of that SEC championship 3 years ago when Jaden Daniels gets hurt and he comes in and he's just out there dialing it up against the Georgia defense, a very respected Georgia defense that went on to win a national championship. And I just wonder if we're going to have this full circle moment of Garrett Nussmeier doing that against the Georgia defense once again in the SEC championship. So LSU is my pick, but I do like the Bama value as well.
So you can maybe keep this going. Is Nussmeier your Heisman pick as well?
He's not. Friends don't let friends bet on preseason Heisman favorites. It's trademark pending. We're working on that one. But I think there's going to be a better Blake Baker defense than what we saw last year. And maybe he's not forced to air it out quite as much as he did last year. A little bit more trust in the run game. And I think the way that they want to be built from an offensive standpoint won't necessarily lead to Garrett Nussmeier having this gaudy statistical season. He's not going to have the rushing touchdowns that you kind of need in this day and age as a modern quarterback to put up those types of numbers. So he wouldn't be my pick. I'm a little bit more intrigued by Austin Simmons. I think Austin Simmons.
I knew it.
There we go. Okay. It's like he's got to live up to the Jackson Dart even Matt Corral, that sort of moniker. But man, there's so much to like, and there's a possibility that everyone sees this unique thing, because that's what it comes down to with the Heisman a lot of times. It's got to be a little bit unique in this day and age. Do something that we haven't seen before. Doing it as a lefty can be the small thing that we look at and go, well, that's a little bit quirky. On top of the fact that he's 19 years old and he's already graduated college and he was learning how to drive when he got to Ole Miss. Like, this is somebody who's just a very unique player to be talking about, and he's going to put up crazy, crazy numbers this year. So Austin Simmons at what, like 33-1 odds
Plus
you can get on him?
4,000 on BetMGM. So
I like those odds a lot.
I think that being in the Lane Kiffin system for 3 years, as Connor said, I mean, that's invaluable. Like, you can't, like, he's going to be like the connection between those two, because Simmons is clearly a smart kid. So he's probably been standing right there next to Kiffin these past 2 years and having a headset and just, he's going to be like literally, his eyes and ears on the field. And I think that, in this day and age of college football where quarterbacks transfer, I mean, you look at Tennessee where, their quarterbacks coming in and might have to start with, not having spring ball and also not getting to throw to anybody who's probably going to be a first team wide receiver during fall camp due to injuries. So, this is the exact opposite situation. I also think, the transfer wide receiver that they brought in from Penn State, I think that he's going to be, plenty motivated to show that it wasn't his fault that they didn't catch a single pass as wide receivers in that playoff loss, and that I'm low on Drew Aller, but that's a reason why. And I think that who is it? Harrison Wallace, is that his
Harrison
name?
Wallace, yeah.
I think he's gonna have a big year too.
That's a good take, a good spin on it. I like that. Motivated Penn State wide receiver. Don't think of Penn State wide receivers as explosive too much, but that could change this year at Penn State. Now, a little extra motivation.
Won in the SEC last year in Keandre Lambert-Smith, who was really good for Auburn in a not great quarterback situation. And, he came from Drew Aller the previous year too. So there's a precedent for what he's done.
The man willingly left Drew Aller for Peyton Thorne.
Right.
And nearly was a 1,000-yard receiver. At a place that never has 1,000-yard receivers, a place that hasn't had an All-SEC first teamer at season's end since 1994, and he put up those types of numbers.
Zach, were you even born in 1994?
I was not.
There you go.
Yeah, just saying.
Even though I'm wearing a 1995 shirt, which still I was not born in. All right, Brady, I have a feeling I know where you're going to go, and you are going to bet on one of the favorites.
Yeah, I got a couple picks. So yeah, I guess we'll start with the guy on the hat. If you're going for a quarterback, Cade Klubnik, I think is a solid bet. The numbers are going to be there. I mean, we've already seen it last year. He's got 3 years starting experience, completed 63% of his passes last year, and they return his top weapons. And in the ACC, like where are those elite defenses, right? And I know that could possibly go work against Klubnik if you're comparing him to a quarterback from, say, the SEC who post similar stats, but I just think, he's got the arm, and with Dabo going into the portal and also Klubnik's top targets all return, I think Clemson's got like 80% of their overall production returning from a really good team last year. So just a lot of consistency there. And I like the value on Klubnik at 950 on DraftKings right now if you're looking for a quarterback. Actually, my best bet is who I think is clearly the best player in college football, Jeremiah Smith at plus 1,000. 1,000, I think, is what you can get him at right now, or 1,100. There's been this long kind of theory, right, that it's a quarterback award, but I feel like that's changing with Devontae Smith, just Travis Hunter last year getting it. Voters are giving it to clearly who's the best player, and you can make the case against Jeremiah Smith. Will Howard's gone, like these running backs are gone. But I think that's going to work for him. His target share is going to be massive. He's going to be kind of carrying a freshman quarterback, really kind of helping him out, probably making some just insane catches that show up on all the highlight reels. So to me, he's just one of those rare physical specimens that's just like, the talent is insane. So as long as he's not injured, I think he's going to be at very least a finalist. And I just think the value is tremendous right now on him. So yeah, he's my best bet.
Brady, you bring up a really good point, because it's something that I don't know how much it's baked into the odds now, but it should be. The fact that we've had 2 of the 5 winners in the 2020s have been non-quarterbacks.
Right.
Like last year on my ballot, I did not have a quarterback. I had Travis Hunter, Ashton Genty, and then Cam Scadaboo. Like I considered Cam Ward, but at the end of the day, I was like, I feel like these are the 3 best players in college football. And I think we have a little bit more awareness and more of an understanding now. And it's not to say we're just going to reward the coolest, trendiest thing that happens in a given season. But I do think we've kind of gotten away from this understanding of like, you have to put at least 2 quarterbacks on your ballot, or you have to, consider the impact that a quarterback has every single play. Like there's just so many more ways to watch and consume this sport that I think that there's value in those guys. And that's why like last year we did a non-Heisman draft and I picked Travis Hunter with like my first pick. I'm like, you have to have something that's kind of unique. And Jeremiah Smith certainly feels unique. He certainly feels like an alien, and he would be one of these guys that could very easily impress voters.
For sure. Yeah. Good points there.
Yeah, I like that a lot. And I'm going to go back to your Klubnik pick because I also picked him. I think just another couple reasons why I like him, some of the narrative base, which you have to have if you're going to win the Heisman. I think week 1, they have a huge game, LSU at home. If they win that game, I think his odds are going to skyrocket if he plays well. And with losing Maffa, losing their running back, I could see him running the ball more, upping his rushing stats, getting more rushing touchdowns, which could also help. And then just kind of my flyer long shot, I put a small little sprinkle in Dampier at 60-1 for Utah. If they have the season, I think they can. He's a lot of fun to watch. At 60-1, why not? Fun little sprinkle to root for.
I've got a couple honorable mentions here just before we move on. I mean, Sam Levitt, Arizona State quarterback, plus 2,000 on BetMGM. Avery Johnson, Kansas State's quarterback, if they win the Big 12, I mean, plus 4,000. Connor mentioned Louisville as an interesting team. Miller Moss, plus 5,000. If you think any of these guys can win the ACC or Big 12, they're probably worth a little sprinkle. Take a little flyer at those odds. And then, just the last one, Bo Prabula is plus 10,000.
There it is.
In case anybody wants to bank on him.
Couple quick things. Last 3 years, the Heisman winner did not go play in the college football playoff. And, I realize we're in the 12-team playoff era now, and missing out is considered, like, what did you even do if that happens? Travis Hunter did not play in the college football playoff, was on a 9-3 Colorado team. I do think that there are ways around it and ways that we maybe have not looked at it in years past. Like some might hear, oh, it's Kansas State. Like Kansas State's not going to make the playoff, or Utah is not going to make the playoff. And I don't think that's the case at all. And to your point with Klubnik, like the best argument for him, besides his bookends being both kind of in a weird way revenge games, because he was 0-3 against the SEC last year. People forget that. But it's the fact that he's gotten better every single year. And as much as it's so hard for these guys to like live up to that standard when they're a preseason favorite, he has gotten better every single year. And he played maybe the best game of his career in that Texas loss. So I as much as I'm not big on a favorite to win the Heisman, Cade Klubnik is certainly a guy that can check a lot of boxes.
Awesome. Well, that was a lot of fun. College football is here. It's back. We're recording this Thursday, so 2 days away from a top 25 matchup, which is kind of crazy to think in Ireland. We're getting a top 25 matchup. So, guys, thank you so much for joining me here, and let's have a great college football season.
Man.
Thanks, Zach. Yeah,